Hi there. I think one of the biggest myths out there right now about energy in general is that you have to protect yourself from negative or so called bad energy, toxic energy. Uh, in my experience as an energy awareness teacher for over 20 years, and as someone who's been able to read and see energy since I was a child, there's no bad or negative energy. There's just energy. But the fact is that your energy is uniquely calibrated, can we say, for your physical self and for your embodied experience in this world. And when other energy is in your space, it can be dissonant. For example, have you ever had an argument with someone and then found yourself thinking about it over and over, not just days later, but maybe even years later, it comes back? That's an example of losing space to other energy. It's the same thing when you have a song that you can't get out of your head. You've lost space to the energy of that song. Have you ever been like in a really great mood and then gone to coffee with a friend who was really down and having a hard time, and you felt yourself feeling that way after? You might think that you took on their energy, but I would say it's more likely that what happened is you matched their energy. You became sympathetically resonant to where they were vibrating, which was in a pretty low space. Have you ever been in a social event or something where you suddenly find yourself saying or doing something really out of character, and not necessarily where there was alcohol involved? That could be an example of channeling other energy. But the one thing that all of these things have in common is your maybe unintentional and perhaps even unconscious, but agreement to the dynamic. When we lose space, it's because we are not taking up our own space. We're literally shrinking our own aura, if you will, our own energetic field. And then that leaves a gap. And it's very natural for energy to fill in gaps. Nature abhors a void. And sympathetically resonating, that's something, it's a dynamic that I see and I've experienced myself many times. It's a very socially acceptable thing to do, is to become sympathetically resonant, because it's one way that we believe we can show that we care. Except that in that process, you lose your sense of self and your own vibration, and ironically you're no longer in a position to actually help that person, because now you're resonating at the same level. Now you're both in a bad mood. Channeling is a little bit trickier. A lot of people who do it aren't aware that they're doing it, and again, it's usually when a person has, in a sense, abandoned themselves, like their own energy. Sometimes people get into that in social situations or situations where they're overwhelmed, and they just start unknowingly channeling energy around them because they're trying to, they're feeling invalidated and they're trying to prop themselves up. This doesn't mean that you need to protect yourself from other energy. In fact, that's not going to help you at all. Because if you put up barriers, psychological, unconscious, energetic barriers to other people, places, events, the result is that you lower the energetic vibe in your own space. So you'll actually have less access to who you essentially are, which is the only thing you needed. So what's the answer? In my experience as a teacher and also as someone who can see and read energy, it's starting with what I call the first step, which is learning to center and learning to have access to who you are as essence. And that happens more easily when we are centered. So that's why I teach centering first, and that's why I call it the first step, because it's the place where it all begins. As soon as you can practice centering, as soon as you can practice that, you will have access and start to experience who you are as energy. As soon as you start to experience that, you can begin recognizing that in the world. So when you go with a friend and you are hearing their sad story, you can recognize your own energy while listening to their story and being compassionate. You can have an open heart. It becomes safe to have an open heart because you're not going to go there yourself. You're going to help them from the place that's already where you are, where it's appropriate for you to help them. My name's Kendall Ann Dixon. I'm an energy awareness teacher. I've been teaching this particular set of tools that I'm teaching these days for over 15 years. And my centering and grounding tools are in my new book, Finding Yes, the First Step.